Welcome to the Jeremy and Andy Talk Movies podcast. I am Jeremy.
I am Andy. You are the top of Jeremy's head.
Yes. A little behind the scenes, just the way our cameras are positioned.
We don't have as clear of line of sight
Looking
today.
at phone and Andy from here up.
Yeah.
So, but hopefully I don't think that should have any impact on the high quality you've come to expect.
That's right. That's
from
right.
our interactions.
That's right.
Today we're going to be taking flight.
We are
on a new movie. Not just off the cuff. I didn't even plan that.
My gosh. That's incredible.
So we were talking about the new movie Flight Risk.
Yeah.
Which will undoubtedly be referenced to as flight plan or any other flight words.
I've called it everything other than
times.
Flight Risk. And will definitely be brought up again later in the year when we talk Oscars for 2026.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Flight Risk. Yes, Flight Risk.
May have been sarcasm on my part.
Is a perfect January movie.
Oh yeah.
It's the simple story. It's a classic story of mob accountant arrested, turning state's witness, and as he's being transported, a hitman is there to try to intercept. It all takes place in this small little plane with just our U.S. Marshal, our state's witness, and our imposter pilot, who is there to kill them both.
Yes.
This movie stars Mark Wahlberg as our assassin. It stars Topher Grace as our witness. Yeah. And it stars someone who I spent the whole movie trying to figure out, who is this person?
Right.
It turns out I don't even really know them.
Know.
They're famous from Downton Abbey, which is a show I never watched. So I'm sure plenty of people do know who she is.
I'm sure.
But her name is Michelle Dockery. And that's almost the entire cast. There's some voice acting along the way.
This is such a small movie.
Small movie.
Couple of cops at the very beginning.
Yeah.
And then a few basically extras at the end.
Yes. This is a movie that you know exactly what the plot is going into it because the previews have to tell you. I was thinking about this, like, could they have possibly advertised this movie and not given away what the plot is? And I'm like, I don't think they could have, because what could they have possibly shown?
It would have been really tough. The only thing they could have maybe manipulated the trailer to make it look like just the plane was going to, it's like, oh, we're going to crash and maybe, but I think that would have taken quite a bit of manipulation. That would have been amazing, though, to go into this not knowing Mark Wahlberg was the bad guy.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking is like... how fun would that twist have been?
Gosh.
But I was like, I don't think there's any way you market it.
It would have been tough. Not that they really marketed this movie at all.
That's true.
So, I mean, at that point, like, why not? If you're going to market this movie that little, just cut back everything. And anyway.
Yeah. Maybe they could have at least hid the fact, the great reveal of when the hat comes off.
Oh my gosh.
That would have been a great theater moment if it had.
Is now a good time to say that you and I wear toupees on here and we are both...
I was about to say, it emboldened me and I thought, it's time, man. It's time to just embrace it and
show the world that we have the same hair as Mark Wahlberg does in this movie.
Yeah. But we both had the same response talking about going to see this movie as like, this looks like kind of a throwback to 90s fun, dumb action where they say like, hey, we're not trying to do anything special here. We're not trying to
what this movie is.
We're not trying to win Oscars. We're just trying to entertain some folks with good action. And it's directed by Mel Gibson, somebody who thrived in the 90s,
Again,
80s
not
and 90s.
That anyone would know this because they kept that top secret.
They sure did.
Yeah.
Literally would just say, from the director of these critically acclaimed movies.
They would not say Mel Gibson.
It's just wild to me.
That's probably a whole nother podcast.
Yeah. So let's get into it, Andy. Andy, did Flight Risk live up to your hopes and dreams?
Absolutely it did. Absolutely. It doesn't even matter if this was a good movie or not. It was dumb. It got right into it. And I mean into it.
The happiest I was just seeing when I was buying the tickets that this is like a 90-minute movie. And we said it before, like, that was my expectation.
Yes.
And it's exactly what it was.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was thinking on the way over, I was like, will I even really have a whole lot to say? Because it's just like, this movie did exactly what I wanted it to do. I think it's completely irrelevant if it's even good or bad. Or, movies like this, they're almost in a way immune from like criticism. It's like, what's it matter if I have little nitpicks about, well, why'd they do this? That was stupid. Like, the whole movie's stupid. So it really doesn't matter. So yeah, it met every expectation I had. I don't understand why they don't make more movies like this, honestly.
Yeah. My only real like criticism of it, this is not even like a criticism of it, I guess, but the whole time I was watching, I was just going, this feels like a straight to streaming movie.
Oh, it
But
does.
they put it in theaters and it's made by Mel Gibson, which is really weird.
It's the whole thing is weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like a direct to like TBS movie or something, with no names in it. But it's somehow got. I mean, Mel Gibson and Topher Grace and Mark Wahlberg are pretty high profile. I mean, Mel Gibson and Mark Wahlberg for sure.
Yeah.
And Topher Grace has been relevant in Hollywood for like 25 years now.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's an anomaly that all these things just came together and this movie's up on the big screen.
Yeah. Topher Grace, I feel like I've been a long time stockholder in him. I've always enjoyed him since.
He's very likable.
That 70s show was, right in I was a teenager when that was going on. I was the target demographic.
Yep.
Had multiple people say that I reminded him of Eric Foreman when I was a teenager, which for better or worse, I don't know. So I've always liked Topher Grace, and he shows up and he is like, who's my character in this? And Mel Gibson was like, I need you to play Topher Grace. Yeah. And he's like, got it. I can do that.
He's a blast in this movie, I thought.
Yeah, there's just certain lines he delivers in the movie where I'm like, that's why you cast Topher Grace.
Yes.
Just a perfect, Topher Grace line to deliver.
He is way overachieving for what this part requires.
Yeah. And then I'm just going to say it. I don't think Mark Wahlberg's a great actor. I thought he was really good in this movie. I really enjoyed what Mark Wahlberg was doing in this movie.
I love that he is just willing to be like, you need me to be just the scummiest scumbag dirtball with the bald head. Yeah, like he's all in. Yeah. And that's really incredible for someone like him. I mean, you could probably argue that Wahlberg is at least an A- lister.
Yeah.
He's always kind of been circling A-lister.
Yeah.
And for him to take this part where it's just like, look, man, you get to basically say whatever you want. Everything you say is just off the rails. You can do a ridiculous accent for the first little bit before they know that you're an assassin. I was like, yeah, just go for it, man. He gets those moments where it's just like I don't want to jump too far, but it's like she's spraying him with a fire extinguisher, and he kind of just bursts out of all like that fog, and he's like, and it's just like, it's just ridiculous, man. And he's all in.
Yeah, it's interesting because he's been on a streak of much more family-friendly parts. And I've seen in interviews where he's talking about, like, he is a family man now. He's a dad, and he's like, I want to make stuff my kids can watch and enjoy. And so this is obviously a big departure from that. And I think probably in large part because him and Mel Gibson are friends in real life. Like, they're, I think, been working on a business deal together.
Oh, really? I
didn't
even know that.
I hope I'm not just, like, speaking out of place here. If I'm remembering this correctly, they talked about starting like a studio together themselves or something.
Right.
And because they have a common thing of like they both are sort of like Catholic faith,
like faith based,
and like they're not wanting to start Angel Studios, but like they just feel like they're a little bit on the different perspective than most Hollywood studios, and so they've talked about doing something together. And I'm guessing that Gibson said, "Hey, I want you to do this part for me." And that's probably why Wahlberg said, "Yeah, I'll do it for you, man. Like, I'm in."
Like, and then Gibson's like, "Would you mind to be bald in this movie?"
Okay.
And he's like, "Yeah, sure."
So, fun thing from the trivia: it was Wahlberg's idea to be bald. He decided he was going to do it, and he didn't wear a bald cap. He shaved his head because he didn't want it to be bald capped.
That's so funny because I was thinking on the base, I was like, "Man, you can't tell that's a bald cap at all."
Yeah,
that's amazing.
So, like,
it's amazing how committed Mark Wahlberg is to this small movie that, is just kind of dumped into the theaters in January, and Wahlberg is like, I'm 1,000% committed to this.
Yeah. And the trivia also said that Gibson said a lot of his stuff is improvised.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
He said Gibson said something like he's got a good darkness in him that he can access, and he said they said actually most of the stuff he improvised had to get cut because it was just like too dark and deranged. He's like, but you see like
I was really wondering about that when he was like
antagonize.
I want to pick my words carefully. Like, he's saying some very suggestive things to Topher Grace, and I was like, the boys and I were talking on the way home. I was like, I wonder if Mark Wahlberg just that was just off the cuff.
Yeah, and so this is one of those things where I'm going, we already made the joke. They're not going for Oscar share. We're not going to be bringing this up at the end of the year award stuff. But I'm also kind of like, it's a little disappointing because silly movie might be some of the best acting of
I
Wahlberg's
know.
career. He's
And
got an Oscar for The Departed, and you know what? Didn't he win the Oscar for
he
The
got
Departed?
nominated. He didn't win.
Oh, he didn't win. Okay,
He probably should have,
but he got a supporting Oscar nomination
Yes,
for
he
The
did.
Departed, and I'm like, not that he's bad in The Departed, but like he's doing way more in this.
Yeah.
Departed's a better movie,
Of course. Yeah.
of course, but like that's exactly my point. Is like, isn't it easier to look good in The Departed?
Yeah,
You're working
than it
with
is-
Scorsese doing a serious movie with a bunch of people who are really good.
With the whole cast.
All
is
you've got to
A-listers.
do is just be grumpy and cuss at people, you know? And then this one, it's like, hey, we're putting you in like this silly movie. You're in a plane.
You have to
It's
start
three-
out being
it's
like,
three people, and you've got to make the audience be locked in the whole time
Yeah.
because you're that deranged.
and you got to start out being real charming,
Yeah.
and then you got to just completely. I know it is. It's a bummer, and I swear we just need to start like Jeremy and Andy's Oscars and just be so willing to reward stuff like this.
Yeah.
It's like while you're at it, just give Topher Grace some love too. Like he's so good in this movie.
Yeah.
He's great. He made me laugh like 9 times in this stupid movie.
Yeah. And Michelle Dockery, for her part, she did a really good job too.
I have no complaints.
She didn't get to be quite as fun as the other
No,
two. Like, that's
she
just
has
the
to be-
part. She has
yeah.
to be the straight person in it.
Yep.
But she did a good job because she also has to be the person that keeps the audience grounded.
Yeah. No, I don't have a complaint about the acting in this movie at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I tell you, I'm going to bring back a bit that I did once upon a time, and I said I want to make a regular thing. That's my favorite bit of IMDb trivia.
Please do.
This is my favorite bit of IMDb trivia from this. Flight Risk supposedly started filming on June 16th, but was halted due to the SAG strike. But Gibson's Flight Risk was granted a waiver to resume filming. I love the idea that SAG goes, oh, yeah, what does your movie have to do with our writing strike? Go ahead.
Yeah. Like writing and this movie really aren't intertwined that
Right.
well together. Just go ahead and make your movie. That is incredible. They looked at it. They were like thumbing through the script. They're like, you know what, man, you're good.
Yeah.
Just keep going.
Clearly, none of our people are involved
Yeah,
in this
just-
project.
Carry on, good sir. Carry on. You know what, though? I do want to make a comment about the writing of this movie.
Yeah.
And one of the main reasons why I enjoyed it, everyone's written to be like they don't do the thing where it's like, dummy, why are you doing? Like, everyone is pretty smart in this movie. The 3 people on the plane.
Yeah.
Like, no one is just a complete idiot who's doing the exact opposite. You know, it's like so many times in this movie, they have to throw in a character that's like, I only exist in this movie to do the exact opposite of what should be done and to complicate the plot of this movie.
Yeah.
And every decision in this movie, you're like, yeah, pretty good idea. I mean, you could be like, just shoot him and get it over with. I mean, she had like 40 chances to just kill him.
Yeah.
But it's just like, you know, it's like she just quickly is like, okay, like, oh, here's my phone. Like, I'm going to use it. Like, everything they should do, they do in the confines of this ridiculous movie.
Yeah. The only moment that I found myself saying, well, why did you do this? And I don't even really blame the characters for it.
Mhm.
That's when they're flying and they get the radio signal, but it's like breaking up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, you're clearly flying away from signal. So why don't you do a 180 and fly back towards
Yeah.
signal? But I mean, again, like the character's not doing that, and there's no guarantee that works. You know,
Yeah.
maybe that might even be a dumb idea on my part. But
Yeah.
that's the only time where I was like, why don't you
Mhm.
do
Yeah.
this or that? At least to a level that like I was like anxiously kind of wanted them to do it.
Mhm.
So that was
Yeah.
I did think it was. I'm trying to think of how I want to say this. I did think it was really well directed. Not that there was like anything special direction, but I don't know. Some reason the previews just had me thinking like I was going to watch this and be like, it's going to look cheap.
No, I didn't think it looked cheap at all.
And I thought I was actually surprised watching. I was like, no, actually, like this looks like it's made by a guy who's an Academy Award winning
Yeah.
director
Yeah.
because he is, I believe, isn't he? Did
Yeah, he
win?
won for Braveheart.
I about to say
Yeah.
I knew Braveheart won awards. I couldn't remember if he
Gibson
won.
won for Braveheart.
Yeah,
Yeah, it looks great, and it's like this is 97% of this movie takes place in this small plane.
hmm
It's not even an airplane where they can kind of play with space a little bit. I mean, they are confined to this movie. Topher Grace moves from the middle seat to the front seat, and it's about the most that happens. And the actress goes from the passenger seat to the driver's seat of the plane, and like everyone is very stationary in this movie. And Gibson has to stage all this stuff so you're still somewhat interested and not bored to death.
yeah. and I think probably the biggest challenge is not looking very green screeny when you're doing the flight stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's probably what's happening is that they're in a
Yeah, they're not actually
makeshift-
flying over the
a makeshift
Alaskan
cockpit
wilderness.
in front of a green screen, and then they're putting all that. Yeah. And I find myself like kind of looking for the seams, like where does it look bad, or does it not look like it lines up, or does that look clearly? And I was like, it looks great.
Yeah.
And part of that is just how far we've come in movie technology.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I still look back to last year's Land of Bad, which is like a B movie through and through. And some of like the quality of the shots and stuff in there where I was like, holy cow, like just how good of quality filmmaking is, even at a cheaper level, is amazing these days. And so like the plane didn't look like this cheap little model plane on a green screen or anything.
Back in my day,
yeah.
you know, in the 80s, if this movie would have been made, 1,000%.
Yes.
1,000% you would have seen that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, too, like, you know, we said this about Wolfman last week. Like, what a great setting. Like, just like they're not in the wilderness, they're flying above it, but it's so visually pleasing.
Yeah.
Like, why aren't more movies made in the Alaskan wilderness? Because you also have the advantage, if you're in the Alaskan wilderness, you could convince me that any animal lives in the Alaskan wilderness and I would buy it.
Yeah.
Like, did you know there's, 12-foot long wolves that will bite your head off? And I'd be like, oh, man, that seems like a thing in the Alaskan wilderness. So, yeah, it looks great. Like, I don't know. Like I said, like, I just don't understand why they don't make more movies like this.
It also adds stakes because if you crash the plane, not only is it like, obviously you could die crashing the plane, but if you live, you're stranded in the Alaskan wilderness.
So that also would have been a good movie. There was a part of me that a few times was like, I kind of hope this plane goes down and we get some kind of little action sequence in the wilderness.
Yeah.
We didn't, but that's okay.
I mean, because again, going back to like where you put yourself in the character's shoes and say, what would you do? My first thought was, I'd be looking to see if there's any parachutes on board because I don't know why in my mind I'm just thinking that's got to be safer than trying to land a plane that you don't know how to land. Is jump out and try to parachute.
Yeah.
But I was also thinking like, but if you jumped out here, you just land in the Alaskan wilderness and now you've got a whole new set of problems. So you at least got to get close to civilization before that's even a consideration.
Yeah. And then I guess that's part of what I mean too, where it's like you construct these action movies and like literally it's like come up with any ridiculous scenario you want. And so you come up with something like this, and it's like, yeah, there's like 4 different ways this could all continue as a movie. You know, they crash and they're in the wild, blah, blah, blah. It just opens up the possibilities. And it does, even if the movie is not really high stakes, it's just a small basic movie, it does add some stakes to within the plot of the movie you're watching. So I don't know. Kudos to this movie.
Yeah. The critics are not lavishing the love on it that we are.
No, they're not.
They've been quite brutal. It's got a 21% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's got a pretty bad Metacritic score. I can't remember what it was, but it was really low. And I gotta be honest, I read this and all I go is like, man, Hollywood critics are petty. This has got to be a we hate Mel Gibson. I saw one person on IMDb gave it a 0. Like this movie is not a 0.
Come on. Yeah.
There's been movies that deserve 0s that I guarantee you this person didn't give 0s, but like this is not one of them.
Yeah, it's like, come on, people. And it's like the whole conversation of like, yeah, like The Godfather, all this stuff is amazing, but it's like, you can do both.
Yeah.
That's the great thing about being a movie fan. You're not exclusive to, just this A+ list Oscar material. Like movies exist for our enjoyment. Like dip your toes in all the water of all these different genres. Like I just don't understand. You just can never convince me why people can't watch a movie like this and be like, you know what? That was really fun.
Yeah. Well, again, I don't think it has anything to do with the movie. I think people went in.
Do you really think it is all Gibson?
I mean, one review, like the little excerpt they had, said something about like there could have been like a good time to have this movie if Gibson didn't make the wrong directing decision at every turn.
Oh, come
and I'm
on.
like, did you watch the movie, or did you just
dude.
write that before you even watched it? What did he do that was so bad directing?
That's so stupid.
Yeah,
that's
so
dumb. Stupid. Get over yourselves, people. Come on.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to get into all this, but it's like all the things Gibson has done, I can promise you there's prominent people in Hollywood that are still to this day doing way worse things.
Yes. We'll leave it at that.
Just leave it at that. Yeah.
Audiences, not surprisingly, enjoying it more than the critics. It's got a 63% from audiences, which is like okay, that's about where a movie like this should be.
That makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll tell you, there was a decent number of people in our theater last night.
Yeah.
And I think this opened to like $12 million this weekend. Probably is not going to have real long legs, but it's not an embarrassing number for a movie that, like I said, another comment about Hollywood, they clearly tried their hardest to promote this movie as little as possible.
Yeah. I did see somewhere, so I don't know if this is accurate because it's just one place I saw it, that it had a reported budget of $10 million. So already made back its budget.
I saw 10, but then another place I read earlier, they said 25. So we'll just say somewhere in there, it's not a big budget movie.
Yeah.
Which, again, kudos to Mel Gibson for keeping this small and keeping the cost low.
Yeah. It's also, I just guess not distributed international. It's got no international, income. And I'm just like, I wonder what's behind that. Because this is the type of movie that you go, it translates. Like, there's nothing lost in the translation of a silly little action movie like this.
This whole thing feels like a hack job on Mel Gibson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. We know he's going to keep working. He's already working on his next project, which is his Passion of the Christ sequel. Passion of the Christ Resurrection, I think is what it's called. So, yeah.
That supports my theory that more sequels should follow the Too Fast, Too Furious. Like, Too Passion, Too Christ. Like, if we're going to make these sequels, let's at least have a little fun with them. I kid.
Too Passion, Too Christ. Bethlehem Drift.
Well, you're welcome, Mel Gibson. We just came up with a great idea for you.
Yeah. We'll accept, a cut of your profits.
We'll take it.
Which, if it's anything like the last one, will be
my gosh. Yeah, that movie made it. That was like the highest grossing R-rated movie for years and years and years.
Before, a Deadpool movie
I think
replaced
a Deadpool
it.
movie took it over,
Yeah. Yeah. So, I don't know. I hope more people see this movie. Because, like I said, these are the kind of movies we'd like to see be made again.
Yeah.
Get more of them.
Get your popcorn, sit there and enjoy this movie. And, it's so refreshing. It was so refreshing to me to sit through an hour and a half long movie.
That was going to be my next point.
Good.
Don't get me wrong. Like, again, we love movies. We don't like for movies to not explore things or let things breathe. But sometimes some stories just need to be 90 minutes.
They absolutely do.
And nothing drives me more crazy than movies that should be 90 minutes being 2+ hours.
That's rough. What do you think? How long into this movie till they are actually on that plane? 5 minutes? Do you think it's about 5 minutes? Because we open with Topher Grace in a hotel.
It might not even be a whole 5.
It may not be. Because I guarantee within the first 2 to 3 minutes of that movie at the most, the lady's kicking down his door.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think another great point about this movie too is you don't have to weigh down your movie with unnecessary exposition and backstory. We never learn really who this guy is. That we don't see the character of this person that Topher Grace does all this illegal stuff for. You hear his name a bunch, and it probably sounds ridiculous that I'm saying we didn't get weighted backstories of all these characters in Flight Risk, but it's because it's we don't need it. It just doesn't matter. And that's such a great decision. It doesn't open with Topher Grace in the city doing shady stuff. But when this movie opens, he's on the run or he's in hiding, and literally 2 minutes in that movie, they're kicking his door down and arresting him.
Yeah.
Hit the ground running movies, some movies, and this was such a good example. And it was, like I said, it was so nice to stand up after an hour and a half and be awesome. That was great. I'm not restless. I'm not frustrated because this movie needed to end 10 minutes earlier. It didn't do the, oh, we've got oh, the movie's over. Oh no, here's one more thing. Oh no, here's another thing. They throw on a little thing at the end and it is very quickly resolved.
I was gonna say that. So, spoiler alert for anybody who doesn't want it, but they do the one last challenge to overcome. But you're right. Real quick handling.
So quick. They don't set that up at all. She kind of makes eye contact with this guy who is just walking menacingly towards the ambulance.
On the phone,
not discreet at all. She goes and bursts in the ambulance. He's got a bag over Topher Grace's head, and she just blows that guy away. Shoots him in the head, and then Topher Grace gets one last funny line, and then the movie's over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was glad they didn't have to have the epilogue of now they go arrest the.
No.
Yeah, just no.
We
just,
have no
we're done.
idea how it all turns out for them. We're just going to assume it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's great. It's so great. I'm smiling just thinking about it.
Yeah.
More movies need to do this. Just don't take yourself seriously. If you're not making the best picture of the year, just recognize that and lean into it, and let's get in and let's get out.
Yeah. Like I said, perfect January movie.
So perfect.
When they're not wanting to, when studios aren't wanting to release any of their best stuff, just saying like, here's some fun entertainment. Perfect.
Yeah.
So just wanted to talk briefly about some of our other movie experiences this weekend, because you got to see a movie thrown back into theaters with your boys on the IMAX. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
I would love to. Got to see Interstellar on the IMAX. So we went literally straight from Interstellar right into Flight Risk.
Just two movies about flights going wrong.
Indeed. I mean, it was, yeah.
It's a real theme of the evening.
It was a real theme of the evening, and such similar movies. No, Interstellar, is a movie I was glad to rewatch. I was thinking, and I was like, man, I don't know if I've actually sat and watched this movie from start to finish since I first saw it in the IMAX in 2014 when it came out.
I have not seen it since I saw it in theaters in 2014.
Seen a lot of clips of it. I've watched little chunks of it. It's on Netflix right now, actually. But to sit down and watch it again, I was like, my gosh, Christopher Nolan is just incredible. Like, and I guess it's one of those things, like, your guys are your guys, and so you're always just going to favor your people. Mm-hmm. But I love Nolan, and I was like, this movie is just aging fantastically. If fantastically is even a word. And my boys had never seen it. So they were excited. Ryan's kind of doing this, like, here's a list of movies I need to see. And Interstellar is on there. I was like, well, it just so happens that it's playing on the IMAX screen. And dude, I'm telling you, that movie is made to be seen on the IMAX screen. When their ships are taking off and stuff, our seats were literally shaking. I mean, literally, like, and I don't know, like, it's a hard movie to break down because there's a lot going on in that movie. Yeah. But it's just, every time I watch a Nolan movie, I'm like, wait a second, is this Nolan's best movie? And I've kind of always dismissed Interstellar, not in the sense of like good versus not good, but
just as his best.
It's just like, this is not Nolan's best. But then last night, and maybe it's just getting caught up in the moment of seeing it up on the IMAX screen, but I was like, this movie's incredible. This movie is incredible. And we were talking on the way home, and it's like, it got the below the line Oscar nominations. McConaughey didn't get a nomination. Anne Hathaway, Jessica Chastain, Nolan didn't get a nomination and didn't get a Best Picture nomination. It's crazy. It was an incredible experience. It looks so good up on the IMAX screen. Like, I just have nothing but positive things to say about it. It honestly, like, it made me like Nolan even more. And my cup is very full on how much I like Nolan. I mean, I'm a huge Nolan guy. Then I watch this, like, I like this guy even more after this. So it was a great experience. The boys they loved it. It's 2 hours, like 2 hours and 47 minutes or something like that. And so I was talking to them on the phone. I was like, were you guys ever bored? And they were like, no, we were locked in the whole time to that movie.
Yeah.
So great experience.
I need to rewatch the movie. I've actually was really hoping I could find a time to go see it while it's in the IMAX, because I feel like that would motivate me to go watch it again.
It looks incredible up there.
I don't know if I'm going to have time and be able to do it. I'm in the basketball season. We are in the thick of it right now. I've got 4 games this week, so it's going to be tough doing anything. But my issue with Interstellar has always been one I'll admit, like, it's an intellectual one that is on me. Mm-hmm. I cannot, people explain it, like, I get what they're saying. I cannot grasp the time difference thing in the aging. Like, I just go, like, it doesn't make sense to me, and I don't understand it, and I don't want to understand it, and I throw my hands up. And some people are, like, fascinated by it. I am so annoyed and frustrated by it.
You don't even want to try.
That I don't want to understand it.
So you know what? We came to this conclusion last night, the boys and I did. I want to be careful, because I don't want to say, like, well, your movie doesn't have to make sense.
Right.
That's not what I mean. But it's like, I was telling Ryan, I was like, this is probably not a movie where you want to try and connect every dot. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, they said that this, so they are bought in that movie makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's like it's written well enough and it's directed well enough. You just buy it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't want to open that can of worms and then just excuse every movie. It's like, well, that movie didn't make any sense, but the director bought into it, so good enough for me. But there's something about Nolan maybe that I'm just more willing to give him a pass. Maybe it's just Nolan bias, but like I don't even care. It's so well acted. It looks so good up on the screen. And I don't know. You can probably make it make sense. I don't care. It is so entertaining. And Nolan, I think you got to give credit to whoever. I don't know if he has the same editor for all of his movies. I should look into that. But the way they do, because all of Nolan's movies bounce around time-wise, I always think he handles that so well.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so locked into the end of that movie when it's like...
Is that a dog whistle?
some weird noise in here. I was so locked in at the end when you're kind of learning that, I mean, spoiler alert for a 11-year-old movie. Like, McConaughey is the ghost that his young daughter is talking about the whole time. It's like him giving messages from like the fifth dimension of space and time. It all sounds ridiculous, but it's like the way they're intercutting all that is phenomenal. It was just a great experience. I'm so glad I got to have it.
Yeah.
Also, I was thinking how cool it is. It was like, one great thing about Nolan is you can throw any of his movies up on the IMAX. And I'm like, okay, I probably need to make a special trip to see that. Dude knows how to make just grand, big movies that look so good up on the IMAX screen.
Yes, he does.
Yeah. You can say what you want about him. If you don't like some of his movies, fair enough. That's, whoever's opinion is, they're right. But it's like his movies look great up on a big, loud screen.
Yeah, I'm sold. Again, wish I could get there to see it. I don't know. It just depends on how long it's going to run there.
I think it's doing well.
I believe it.
I think it's doing well up on the IMAX. I think you could use the word crowded for our screening last night at 4:15 in the afternoon for a movie that came out in 2014. There was a lot of people in that theater.
Yeah.
Yeah. So great experience.
Yeah. I went and saw The Brutalist yesterday. We'll probably talk more about it in details.
Yeah, I'm planning on seeing it.
Later. But I'll just say this. It's known to have an intermission. I think I'm a fan of the intermission.
Are you a fan? I wanted to ask about that.
I don't think I'd want it in anything less than a 3-hour movie because I'd be like, let's just keep the story going. Mm-hmm. But it hit, and I think when you go to a 3.5-hour movie, like you're like, I'm gonna feel this is gonna feel long. Mm-hmm. And then when it hit that intermission, I was like, oh, we're at intermission already. Okay.
How do they do it? Does it something come up or is it just...
Yeah, so there's like a title screen for like the first part of the movie.
Gotcha.
And then it comes up intermission. So it doesn't look completely out of place because it looks like title card for the next thing, but it says intermission. It's got like this old photo of the family it starts a timer countdown. It's like 15 minutes. And yeah, it was kind of nice to actually just get up and go to the restroom, stretch my legs, and then come back in and sit and be like, all right, now I'm ready to go for the second half.
Interesting that I guess it is a studio decision, I guess, because there's definitely been 3-hour movies plus over the last few years that don't have intermissions.
And it's funny because as soon as the movie ended, not as soon as the intermission began. This is when I heard this. I heard there was some younger people sitting in like the row in front of me. Say younger, they might have been their 20s or something. And I hear one of them say, "This is exactly what Killers of the Flower Moon needed." And I kind of laughed and I thought, I actually am going to go the opposite. Like, Killers of the Flower Moon, I was fine with.
Yeah.
It had a little better pace. It's not that The Brutalist is like so slow, but it's a slower movie. And so like having a break felt nice. Like Killers of the Flower Moon, I feel like was fine. It moved along
it didn't
quick enough
me.
that like I didn't sit there and go like, oh, I need a break.
Yeah.
Of course, what it all comes down to is I'm getting older. And so now I just need breaks for things like going to the restroom and things like that. But
age. Yeah. I guess you're probably right though. Cause like I was thinking like something like Oppenheimer, which is not over 3 hours, but it's right at 3 hours. That movie is so dependent. Like it's like a slow build towards this quick cutting at the end. Mm-hmm. And I think a break would really interrupt that.
Yeah.
So that's, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what didn't need an intermission? Flight Risk.
No, it didn't.
No.
It would have been hilarious if it did, though.
That would be so
15-minute intermission.
Like 10 minutes into the movie, it's like, well, we're 35% done with this movie, so if you need to go to the restroom, that would be incredible.
Yeah. Last thing I want to talk about today is we've actually gotten probably the most comments we've gotten on anything that we've posted online on a little clip I put out about what do we think about Nosferatu's mustache.
Oh, I'm so glad that's inspiring conversation.
But what we've gotten is numerous people telling us, shut up, we're dumb. That's the way it's written in Bram Stoker's Dracula. He's written as having
man,
a
we got
mustache.
hate comments.
And I'm like, okay, hold on, nerds. I'm so sorry that we weren't up to date on our historical fiction literature, on the history of fiction.
I didn't realize our listeners were so well read.
Yeah, like they're gonna like when you made this comment, did you really think I was gonna go, oh, Bram Stoker said vampires have mustaches? My apologies. I am the fool. It no longer seems silly to me that this made-up creature has a mustache.
You know what?
My bad.
I'm going to say this right now on air. To anyone who badmouthed us about our mustache knowledge, show up here. We will fight. No, I'm just kidding.
No, it was just cracked me up. That
you know what? I've kind of wanted...
Somebody, I think, quoted like page number that it references it and like the exact quote from it. And I'm like, this is hilarious.
You know what?
Hilarious.
Secretly,
like you're quoting from scriptures. Like, how could I argue this?
Secretly, as long as we've been doing this, I've kind of wanted a hate comment.
Yeah.
I've kind of wanted someone to just come at me, like someone I don't know. Like it would hurt my feelings if it was like someone's just like, this guy is an idiot and a loser. Like I kind of wanted to inspire some online hate.
Yeah. That's when you know you're doing something, you know.
You're
not getting any strong reactions, then what are you doing?
Exactly. It's probably jealousy because whoever wrote that's probably tried to grow a Count Orlok type mustache and couldn't.
Yeah.
So they're just lashing out at us because of their own mustache inadequacies.
Yeah.
Or they're angry that they didn't come up with the idea of having a band called the Mustachioed Vampires.
That's true.
So
yeah, they're sitting around trying to name their band and they've not come up with one good name, and then we just off the cuff,
boom. Yeah.
Mustachioed Vampires, and now they can't have it.
Jealousy
it's ours.
Is an ugly thing.
Very much is.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is going to do it for this week's Mustachioed Vampire podcast.
I was looking at the time and I was like, man, this is a really short episode, but it's like, how much can you talk about flight risk?
Short movie deserves a short review. That's all I'm going to say.
Can I just give one shout out?
Absolutely.
To flight risk? Something that just made me laugh so hard. Like, I'm trying to think of when this happens in the movie. So like you get the reveal that Mark Walt, like he makes it known that he is the bad guy to the other characters. They tussle around a little bit. There is a scene in that movie. Okay, yeah, she's in the front. He's kind of like jumped on her, and I think he's like trying to strangle her. She tases him for like 2 straight minutes, and it's just Mark Wahlberg like, argh. I could not believe how long they drew that out. And then after that, it's like it finally knocks him out and it shows up and he just has like this black like burn on his neck. And I was like, I almost wanted to Google like how long can someone be tased for? Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
She is just tasing him in the face basically for so long. That was just, I don't know why I brought that up. It just made me laugh so hard. That's the new standard for like, if someone gets tased in a movie, it's like, well, Wahlberg got tased for 17 times longer than this person did in Flight Risk.
That's right.
So just wanted to shout that out. Also, he gets shot with a flare. That's incredible. I don't know why. That just like just shoots him with a flare. Like, awesome. Cool move. Like, it's like it shows that flare gun sitting in that box and you're like, someone's getting shot with a flare.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it figured it would probably be Wahlberg, and it was everything I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a fun time. It was a fun demise for him too.
we didn't talk about that.
No.
It's a really fun demise. Like, can we just say it? Do you care?
Yeah. Spoilers if anybody doesn't want to know.
So she's landing the plane. That is the most dramatic plane landing.
I've got to say this. Hassan, great voice character. I was like, I'm loving this guy. He's charming. He's funny.
Yeah.
But when he's like, okay, I'll see you when you land. And he cuts out with his instructions. I was like, and she's like, that's it? I'm like, dude, that's it? Like,
you probably should see her
probably
through
at least a few more things you should say, because
you should probably see her through to the very end. That plane is going everywhere. It is spinning. There are pieces flying off of it, hitting the ambulance, falling. It's so incredible. So at one point, the door just rips off, right?
Like the
side rips off. Wahlberg goes flying out. He lands, he kind of lands on the runway, extreme close up on his face, and he's like, and an ambulance just plows him over.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Then you get a shot of him like bouncing around under the ambulance.
It's incredible. And I think too, I want to just say like, kudos to them for not doing like but he's still alive.
I know. I wondered. I was like, are we gonna get?
Is
Is he
he
gonna be
gonna pop
freaking
up?
Jason Voorhees in
Yeah,
this? But
he doesn't.
no.
He's dead.
And leads to that comedic moment where the marshal lady goes, there was 3 passengers, and the lady from the ambulance is like, oh, one of them fell out. He didn't make it. She goes,
Thank
oh, thank
goodness.
goodness. And then the rescuer doesn't know the scenario. She's just like, what?
It was awesome. Yeah. I felt like I would regret not mentioning those
No,
couple
we
things.
should have. We should have mentioned.
Great
a few of those.
great close up on Wahlberg's face as that ambulance is coming. The bald head in full display.
And then her looking over once they stopped, and Topher Grace looking unconscious or out of it. And she's worried he's dead, and she shakes him, and he goes, "What? Did we land? Cool." Like
Just Topher Grace
high on morphine.
being one last, like it's like, so somebody beat Topher Grace one last time in this movie.
Yeah.
Actually, he does it again after she shoots the guy who's got the bag in his face. He's like, this day with some more colorful words. Like Topher Grace had a blast making this movie, I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also did laugh. Like, I don't know if Topher Grace has been in a movie before where he's not wearing a zip-up hoodie, much like me on this podcast.
Right.
But
Yeah,
I was like, it must be like in his writer or something. Like,
probably was.
yes, I will be in your movie, but I'm wearing one, and it always feels like one he brought from home.
Yeah.
I don't know.
A lot of bathroom related stuff with Topher Grace in this movie as well.
It's true.
Yeah. Just a few closing comments on Flight Risk.
Yeah. Fun time. People,
Yeah.
you should check it out.
Check it out, man. Check your brain at the door and sit there for an hour and a half and watch this movie.
Yeah, you're not going to find a better new option in the theaters right now.
No, not at all.
Yeah. In fact, looking at it, like, there's not really anything I have on my list. I need to relook because I'm always kind of like learning about movies a little bit.
I do want to go see that haunted house movie that Steven Soderbergh did. It's
Presence.
plain.
Yeah.
Hour and 25 minutes.
Oh, wow.
I was almost tempted to go see it last night and make it a triple feature, but I knew
Yeah.
I'd be so tired if I did. So
Yeah.
I might try and get up to that this week.
I don't know. Yeah. We'll see if I make it to anything. Like I said, I've got
You're
games
busy.
Friday and Saturday.
No.
And I'm still trying to get up there to catch a couple of these movies they put back out in theaters. Like Nickel Boys is a
Yeah.
movie I want to catch
Yep.
while it's in theaters.
Yep.
And I don't know when I'm going to find the time to do that. So we'll discuss it. We'll figure out what we're doing next week.
So once again, if there's a billionaire who listens to this podcast and you want to fund us so we can just quit our jobs and watch movies all day, we will accept.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you want us to advertise your product, Raising Cane's, you can sponsor us.
Yeah,
All right.
I will take one for the team and I will quit my job
Yeah.
and I will just spend my days watching movies.
That's the dream right there.
That's the dream. It really is.
Yeah.
So, person who made fun of us for not knowing about Bram Stoker's Dracula, if you're a billionaire, put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
Fund us, and we will have more time to do research about our mustaches.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I won't read, but
No, but
but I'll watch
it
movies.
sounds good to say. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us.
Yeah. See you next week.